Hey folks, this is Kalani. As more and more folks hit max level in Dragonflight, it's time to switch gears and start looking towards increasing our item level. We have limited access to gear and upgrades in these first 2 weeks before Season 1 starts, and getting the highest item level possible will make sure you have the smooth start to Season 1 that everybody wants, no matter what kind of content you're going to jump into. So here's our early Dragonflight gearing guide and how you can get up to item level 372 and beyond. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get to max level. There isn't really any point in trying to gear up before you hit level 70, that's where all your progress is going to be made, so make sure you hit max before you try and focus on your item level. When you first hit level 70, you're probably floating around the 310 to 320 item level mark, somewhere around there. There are quite a few item level requirements for some types of content, dungeons specifically, so we're going to want to increase that item level as quickly and efficiently as we can. I'm going to start by talking about the profession system, because you can get very high item level gear for a little time investment in this system, or a little bit of gold depending on which you'd rather spend. If you do professions yourself, you can get to profession skill 50 relatively quickly and painlessly, and that will give you access to item level 343 crafted gear. The crafted gear itself starts at item level 333, but you can increase it up to 343 by increasing your skill and the quality of the item you're crafting. At leatherworking 56, with some profession gear and a little bit of specialization, I can guarantee the quality 5 mark on all of my crafts, so I can very easily craft 343 gear. Now some crafted pieces start down at item level 306, but you can increase those up to 343 by using the lowest tier of upgrade matrix. You can get these from world quests, dungeons, and a couple of other sources. When I hit level 70, I actually had plenty of matrices to craft a full set of gear at item level 343, which let me skip ahead quite nicely in terms of gearing up. So don't knock professions, they're an incredibly valuable source of gear, especially in the early days of the expansion. You can actually go further than that though. If you start running dungeons, you might be lucky enough to get a training matrix 2 or 3 or even 4. Those let you increase the item level of any crafted piece significantly, so that will be a huge bump up for any crafted gear you have equipped. And then you can actually go one step further right now, though it does involve a little bit more of a time investment, especially in your profession. To the east in Valdrakken, you can find the Engine of Innovation. If you haven't popped by the engine yet, you will have a quest line here that ultimately ends in you obtaining your first spark of ingenuity. These sparks are acquired in every high-end craft, and it seems like you're only going to be able to get one per week right now. With about 20 profession knowledge, you can unlock your first high-end crafting recipe almost no matter what profession you are using. I can actually unlock 5 recipes total right now, but I haven't decided which other ones I want, so I haven't spent my knowledge just yet. My main point here is that you can actually craft an item level 382 piece or higher depending on your skill right now. It can go all the way up to item level 392 if you have the appropriate skill and items. That's probably one of the highest item level pieces you can get your hands on this week. To craft these items you need 1 spark, some primal chaos, and then some rare crafting materials and a bunch of general materials. We just got our first spark, so that's done. The primal chaos is rewarded from all over the place. World quests, daily quests, weekly quests, at the end of dungeons. There's a wide variety of places you can get it. And then the other materials are kind of up to you. You can gather them, farm them, or buy them, whatever suits you best. What's super interesting to me right now for Dragonflight is that you actually don't have to have the profession yourself to benefit from what a profession can offer. You can use the crafting order system to get something crafted, even a bind on pickup item, as long as you provide the materials. Just pop by the crafting order clerks, punch in what you want, and hopefully someone can fill it. So even those epic 382 pieces of gear, as long as you get the spark and the primal chaos, you can have someone else craft those higher pieces of gear for you. It might take a while, as most folks are probably still leveling their professions and choosing where to put their specialization knowledge, but it's a very high item level piece of gear that anyone has access to, and you should be able to make at least 1 per week going forward. Now, you cannot control the quality of your craft unless you go with a personal or guild order, so that's unfortunate, but you can still get something crafted and have it recrafted later if you find some with a better profession skill to make those more specific work orders, so you don't lose that much value or really any of the rare materials thanks to the ability to recraft it later. All in all, professions are an amazing way to gear up early on in Dragonflight, so I'd encourage you to take advantage of them. Another great source of gear for absolutely everyone is going to be world quests. World quests are on longer timers this time around, which means you'll see less variety and less world quests overall, but that does give you more time to actually get them done. World quest gear rewards scale with your item level, so the higher item level you get, the better the rewards are going to be. Most of my world quests reward up to item level 350 gear, but I have seen rewards as high as item level 363 gear from some of the elite world quests, so there's definitely a lot of value in checking your map for good gear rewards. You might just fill in that last low item level slot like those pesky trinkets. Now, if all of that seems like too much work, we also have the usual dungeon route to fall back on. For Dragonflight, normal dungeons will be dropping item level 346 gear, and you can queue into them as soon as you hit level 70 with no item level requirements. It will be random whether or not you actually see any gear drops, so I would highly recommend you use professions to skip over this section of the gearing up path just to give you the best and fastest results. As a quick note, normal dungeons can drop the Matrix level 2, which can be used to upgrade crafted gear to item level 356, so even if you don't get gear, those items will still give you access to some upgrades. Moving on to heroic dungeons, they're going to drop item level 359 gear, so I would say they're definitely worth running if you're looking to do some easy gearing up. You do need to get up to item level 342 before you can queue into them using the dungeon finder though, so you'll have to get some gear elsewhere before hopping into heroic dungeons. Heroic dungeons can also drop the level 3 matrix upgrade items, allowing you to make crafted gear up to item level 369, so even if you aren't super focusing on crafted gear, they can offer you an efficient side gearing pathway. And then the next step up is to head into Mythic dungeons. You can only get loot from each boss on Mythic once per week, so the loot is definitely way more restricted. If you're lucky, you can walk away with item level 372 gear. The trade-off is that you can't queue into this content. You're either going to have to make a group or join a group. It's much easier and way more fun, in my opinion, to play with friends or guildies, but if you have to resort to pugging, you can see what the Looking for Group tool has on offer. From our experience, most groups are asking for item level 340 to 350 to join, somewhere in there, and pugs are always going to be wildcards, so good luck out there, and I hope you get some shiny loot. And then, as an extra bonus, you may have guessed it, but Mythic dungeons can also drop level 4 Matrix upgrade items, which can take your crafted gear up to item level 382. You can probably see why I started with the profession talk in this video at this point. I think the chaps who are going to gear up the fastest and get the best available gear are the ones who do dungeons alongside professions. They do definitely seem to go together very well. While you're gearing up, you should also pick up the dungeon quests available for each dungeon. They're kinda scattered about the place, but thankfully some of them auto-accept when you join the dungeon. Each dungeon quest will give you a choice of gear rewards at item level 346, so not super high item level, but they can potentially help you fill in some gaps, and you're doing the dungeons anyway, so it's not really any extra effort. A very important thing to note is that while heroic dungeons do have an item level requirement to queue into them, they do not have an item level requirement if you simply walk into the dungeon. So you can take your full group of 5 and run heroic dungeons even if you don't have the item level to queue into them. You just need to go to the portal, go to the actual dungeon entrance, and just walk in. That can let you skip over the normal dungeon gearing up section and hop straight into heroic, which will probably be fine for the most part. Dungeons seem to be relatively easy and Dragonflight by the looks of things, and that actually includes Mythic 0 dungeons. Our guild has been skipping almost everything and just hopping straight into Mythic dungeons at item level 330 to 340. Most dungeons have been a pushover, but your experience may vary. Our guild is full of Mythic raiders who also push Mythic plus keys, so they're very good players all around. I would encourage you to try Mythic dungeons though. You really don't need a super high item level as long as your group doesn't try to pull the entire dungeon all at once. If you want to get the highest item level before the raid comes out, you really want to focus on getting Mythic dungeons done and look into those higher item level profession items. Now, as always, you can always gear up through some PvP activities as well. It's only unrated PvP for now, but you can earn honour in the typical ways, mostly from BGs, and then pop on over to the Honour Quartermaster. The unrated PvP gear starts at item level 340, and you can upgrade it, though the upgrades are currently limited until Season 1 starts, so it's useful if all you do is PvP, but the dungeon rewards are going to be far more valuable in general. Now, something that is new for Dragonflight is that we actually have some gear available for taking part in outdoor PvP content as well. You can find the War Mode Quartermaster in the PvP building in Valdrakken, and you can buy item level 366 gear from this chap. That's actually really good overall for pre-season gear. You can also upgrade it later on by collecting Trophies of Strife. To buy this gear, you are going to need bloody tokens. You can get bloody tokens from killing players in war mode. It's 1 token per player, so that's a very slow but reliable source. You can also get tokens from the war supplies that sometimes drop into zones with war mode on. That can get you a couple hundred, so if you see a war cache dropping, be sure to secure it for your faction. And then there are also War Mode only world quests. Sometimes they reward hundreds of bloody tokens, but even if their specific reward is not bloody tokens, completing these world quests can net you about 50 bloody tokens by the looks of things, but remember, you will need to have War Mode on to even be able to see them. Collect all of those bloody tokens together and you might be able to buy yourself some shiny 366 gear, which can later be upgraded into 385 gear, so definitely worth looking into. Now that's it for the typical gearing up methods, but there are a few extra things you can do for some gear. These activities are great for other reasons, but they also have a chance to reward some pieces of potentially high item level gear too. To start with, we have the Cobalt Assembly Reputation Farm. Over at the Cobalt Assembly in the Azure Span, you can find Steez, the Quartermaster over here. He sells item level 389 rings with special effects for tanks, healers, and DPS. You can only equip 1 of them, but this is probably the highest item level ring available until Season 1 starts, so it's incredibly valuable, especially given that it has a special effect. To get the required reputation, all you have to do is farm the mobs in the elite area of the Cobalt Assembly. You need the power level to go up to high. This is actually a sub-reputation of the Valdrakken Accord, so you can very easily check your progress in the reputation window. This does take a while, it's like 2 to 3 hours of straight mob farming, so it's up to you. The rings are quite powerful though. Then there's also the Siege on Dragonbane Keep event. You can find this in the Waking Shores. The horn on the map shows you when the next event will start. At the very end of this event, you'll get a box with a variety of rewards, including the chance at a piece of gear that scales with your item level. So the higher you are when you complete it, the better gear you will get. I'm not sure what the cap is on that gear, but an extra chance and an upgrade is always nice. I'm pretty sure you can only complete this once per week for the big box. Subsequent rewards aren't as good. And then the weekly quest in Valdrakken, Aiding the Accord, also rewards you with a box that can contain some nice gear upgrades. I do believe this one also scales with your item level, so you'll probably want to open it later on in the week to maximize the potential rewards. And I guess we can also talk about reputation rewards. At certain renown levels, you can unlock gear rewards from the 4 major factions in Dragonflight. The renown levels are quite high, however, so you will most likely have much better options for gearing up by the time you get to the required rep levels. But you can get item level 376 and item level 389 gear depending on the renown level required. So if you don't want to do dungeons or raid long term, these could be a good source of higher item level gear for you. And that's pretty much it, all of your options for gearing up right now, as well as what I think would be the most efficient. When Season 1 starts later in December, the new raid will open up, the Mythic Plus season will start, and we'll be able to play in rated PvP to earn conquest and higher item level PvP gear. The Elemental Invasions will also kick off, giving casual world content solo players a chance at some higher item level gear. All of those activities will offer significantly better gear, but they're also going to be much harder, so the more gear you get right now, the easier your entrance into Season 1 will be. How are you planning on gearing up? Are you delving deep into the profession system to craft as many high item level pieces as you can as quickly as you can, or are you taking the traditional dungeon route and just spamming them over and over again? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.